For Willow, that means stop. Gotta teach him sign language earlier. Alright, Season 1, Episode 3, The One with the Thumb. Speaking of Willow, we also just taught her what the thumb is, because we're teaching her how to do numbers.
Very nice.
Yeah, so The One with the Thumb. Jay Chadwell, Calvin Cowell, with you back again. We're starting to put these out a little bit quicker than what our first and second gap was, so it's good. We're catching some steam. So we'll dive right into it. Episode 3, The One with the Thumb. After, of course, our trivia. Now, your last episode, you went 2 of 3. Your running total is now 4 of 6, which, if you're in the MLB, you're a Hall of Famer. Getting 4 hits and 6.
That's right.
I mean, it's not even close.
In high school, I'm failing, but in MLB, I'm a Hall of Famer.
You just need to spin it the way you want it to be. But before we get to the trivia, obviously my little coffee house couch, Cal's new shirt. Man, that's one of the best quotes, easily.
Love it.
Because it's funny and true. It's a moot point.
It makes sense. I followed it like perfectly.
Yeah, and once you hear that, the other way doesn't make any sense. The moot point makes more sense to me.
Absolutely. Actually, it might be a little embarrassing, but I didn't know that it was moot until after Friends.
Oh, really?
And so it kind of like hit me like, I mean, that makes sense, but that can't be why that word is moo.
Right.
And then realized that I was just an idiot and didn't know that it was actually moot.
Now, the world we live in, as you know, is a little different in 1994. By the way, we're recording this on May 8th, 2024, for whenever somebody listens to this. Yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the final episode.
Wow.
Yeah, so May 7th, 2004 was when the final episode aired. And 20 years later, here we are. So I saw a meme that said, 20 years ago, Rachel got off the plane. And she did.
Yes, she did.
She really did. So yeah, moot point. That's such a... Where did you get that shirt at?
Amazon.
Did you?
Yeah.
So good. I got to get one. I don't know what I got to do because I brought the couch and then you upped it with the shirt. So
there was also a pivot shirt. That one was pretty good because it says pivot.
Right. Yeah, that's. New point was correct. Unless you're just doing like a flat out, like straight up Friends shirt, that is correct on what like you would want to do. So, all right, let's do the trivia, and then we will dive into the episode. At least one of these was, at least one of these questions was on the COVID trivia that we did.
Trivia, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think you should be able to get it. It's really early. All 3 of these questions are pretty early, so. All right, what was the farm name that Ross thought his parents took their dog Chi-Chi to live?
It was... starts with Milner's.
Mm-hmm.
The Milner's farm.
The Milner's farm. Yeah, so I've thought about this too because I think I need to start releasing clips of ours, but realistically, the flow of how we talk about it makes it really hard to do clips, except for the trivia. I could release the trivia as clips, and people could play along, and then I want to listen to these guys. That guy's got a couch. That dude's got a sweet shirt.
That's right.
I'm going to listen to these guys. Okay, these are pretty tough. I'm going to leave the toughest one last. How much did Phoebe get for the thumb in the soda?
The thumb?
Yeah, because I had how much did Phoebe originally get from her bank, and that was $500.
And then a football phone.
She got another $500 and the football phone,
mm-hmm.
and then she gave that $1,000 to Lizzie.
To Lizzie, the homeless.
And she said, "I can't let you not take something." and then she
So
went
she
to
gave
go
her the
get
soda.
yeah, and then there was the thumb in there. And how much did the company give her?
The 5,000?
Oh, you're close. It's higher. 7. I'll give it to you. It's
Yeah.
7,000.
Yeah.
7,000 was how much she got. Okay, 2 for 2. 2 for 2. This one's tough. This one's really tough.
Oh.
When Rachel is serving, and she it's Monica, Joey, Chandler, and Ross all sitting in the coffee house. She messes up the orders of who she gives them to.
Ooh.
One of them had ordered an iced tea, so you can either say who she originally handed it to, or who actually ordered it and got it toward at the end when they switched.
I think I know both.
Okay,
Ross ordered the iced tea.
correct.
The reason I know that one is because when that scene comes up, like, I'm like, who would order an iced tea? Like, who's at the coffee shop ordering an iced tea? It's Ross. But that one, I can't remember exactly who she gave that one to somebody on the other side because they both reach across and swap, and then
Correct.
so it's. I have a peanut gallery over here saying Monica. Oh, what was there? Monica.
Correct. Peanut Gallery is correct.
Peanut
It was
Gallery.
Monica. Monica handed it to Joey, who then gave it over to Ross, and he drank it. And then we'll talk about that scene because there's something that follows that scene that there's a couple in these next couple episodes. There's like big continuity errors that like make no sense, and it's even like episode to episode that they don't make any sense. But we'll tackle them out as we go. So. Yeah, so one little thing I do want to touch on, because we talked about it the last episode, and I just kind of found it interesting. But we talked about how the $40,000 wedding in 1994, what the inflation would be now.
Oh, man.
You want to take a guess?
It's got to be like 400%, right? So it's got to be somewhere.
No,
like
it's not that high.
Not quite that big. In 30 years, it's not 400% was like the college tuition.
I definitely believe that.
That one. Inflation.
Now this is just
general
like,
inflation rate over
general
30
inflation,
years.
not wedding inflation, whatever. Just how much $40,000 inflation wise would be now.
Is it double?
Yep, 82.
Is it double? Yeah.
82,000. So I mean, it's just dollar doesn't quite go as far as it used to.
Not anywhere near that.
So episode 3 starts out. It starts out in the coffee house once again. It is the third episode to start out in the coffee house. Third episode of the series. So I am interested to see. Like, that's a good trivia question, and I don't know the answer because the fourth one starts out on it as well. Where the first opening that isn't the coffee house
in the coffee house
is, and it's not the first 4. So Phoebe is the point of emphasis. Here at the start, the crew asked her how her date went, and she said not good because the guy said walked her to the subway and said we should do it again sometime. In which Rachel feels like it's a good thing, but the rest of the crew says it's a bad thing. I think this early. Well, what do you think this said? Like Rachel saying, well, isn't that a good thing? Like, what do you think that says about her character?
It just points back to that she's not necessarily been handed, but to an extent handed everything because she doesn't realize that is like a letdown code. Like anytime somebody says let's do this again, they did it again.
Yeah,
so it was baffling to her.
Yeah, it's she's never been dumped. Like it's her naiveness of what it's like being dumped because she's either done the dumping or done running out on the the wedding or whatever
on the wedding day.
So she doesn't know what it is. And then the group is comforting Phoebe. Chandler, for the first time in the series, gives a meaningful line here. So, we talked about that, how his lines in the first 2 episodes are all sarcastic. He does give a sarcastic remark first, but then he tells Rachel, he's like, it's not you, it's me, and we should see other people, and blah, blah, blah. He's like, that's what this is like. And it's just a way to soften the blow, pretty much, instead of just saying, I don't like you anymore. Which I obviously didn't learn, but it's just a way to soften the blow. And then he says, which was a sincere line, it's like when your parents tell you that they're taking your dog to the farm when they're really getting ready to put the dog down. And he doesn't say it, even though that could be taken sarcastic, he doesn't say it sarcastic. He's just saying a matter of fact kind of thing. And then when he says that, Ross goes on to say, well, that's funny because our parents actually did. And the interesting part about these next couple episodes, because the next episode is Ross getting hit in the face with the puck, and Rachel getting, like, seeing her friends, and, like, you know, how her friends are still living this extravagant life, and she's not anymore, obviously. So they kind of, like, are a parallel to that. And it's kind of like Ross and Rachel are a parallel to this as well, because Rachel's naive about what it's like being dumped, because she's had, you know, that she's never had to deal with that. Ross is naive about, like, things being hard on him as well, because his parents have protected him from that.
He's never been hard for him.
Correct. So it's interesting to see how the writers, in my mind, start to, like, line those two up to eventually get together as you know, all the foreshadowing, and then even, like, the more kind of the deeper dive on it. So and that's all before the credits. Then the credits come in, and hold on, with the credits going, but what scene did show how Rachel has never been dumped? Oh, okay, yeah. So that's what we just talked about, how, like, neither one of them have had to face heartbreak because they've been sheltered by either money or their parents. So do you feel like, I guess that's my mindset, do you feel like that is a coincidence, or that I've dug too far deep into it, or do you think that the writers are starting to put some together there?
I would say they probably are, because now that they're now getting to the point where you can really start setting narratives. Because like prior to this, it's a lot of introduction, it's a lot of background story, it's a lot of setting scenes, and now they can start actually breaking into plot, breaking into potential avenues that the story goes.
I agree. I and again, maybe that's why it's one of my favorite early episodes, because it's starting to get to places like that instead of just these jam-packed, like, let's introduce everybody kind of thing. So after the credits, the scene opens in Chandler and Joey's apartment, where Joey's going over lines and Chandler's helping him out, which is, again, more sincereness from Chandler. He's, like, legit helping him, saying he's done a good job. Do you remember what Joey struggles with here?
Smoking.
Yeah, it's smoking.
Yeah.
So he's struggling to smoke, and he's, like, coughing and everything. And then Chandler teaches him, and Joey's not going to let him do it, which we find out later that Chandler has been 3 years without a cigarette. So that's why he didn't want him to do it.
Oh, the 3 years part. I was going to say, you find out pretty quick that it's pretty obviously that Chandler had a habit that he was breaking.
Correct. And they didn't, Joey didn't say it, but, like, they're in the coffee house later, and he's smoking behind the couch, which is so...
Yep.
Like, if you're trying to hide it for your friends, you're not going to smoke in the middle. Which, again, New York in 94, you could obviously smoke in buildings.
Smoke anywhere, yeah.
Obviously not allowed anywhere right now. But then Chandler shows him how to do it, like how to hold your hand, how to, like, stand, like what your mindset should be, and then he, like, falls back into it after his his first puff. So back in the coffee house, all it takes is once. All it takes is once. Back in the coffee house, Rachel, this is where she's serving. Excuse me, I got chips and dip action. Rachel is serving Joey, Chandler, Ross, Monica their drinks, messes them all up. And they don't fix it right away, to their credit. They're like, oh, good job. But then, like, they do. And, like, Rachel doesn't notice it. So, like, not only does she have all these drinks incorrect, but she doesn't remember 15 seconds later when she comes back over, like, oh, I didn't hand Ross The iced tea.
The iced tea, yeah. But it's such obliviousness going on. And plus, it's a small coffee shop. Like,
Yeah.
it's just her back's not turned for that long.
No.
She walks back behind the counter and doesn't realize that everybody's handing drinks.
Right. So put yourself in the four friends position. Because I was thinking about this too. Like, if I have a friend that is obviously a daddy's girl, trying to like start her own life, and which is a narrative of these next two episodes of her trying to get her feet under her. Do you feel like you say, Rachel, this is not what I ordered, like tough love kind of thing, or do you think you're like them and kind of just like sweep it under the rug to protect her feelings?
At this point, you sweep it under the rug. At this point, like, she's probably, this is episode 3. Say in calendar, this is a month, maybe 2 months. Like, right. First job ever, first time out on her own. Like, help continue to build some confidence first. If this is still going on, like it is at some points, 2-3 years down the road, yeah, it's tough love.
Yeah, it's like I forget what episode. I don't even remember what it says, but like it's pretty much saying like the decaf or the dirty dishes go here, and Rachel's like, "Oh, we should mark that," and Gunther's like, "Well, it is marked."
We do.
Yeah, you haven't done that correctly in years, but yeah. I don't know if it's like I think I want to like, no, it's not what I ordered. Like tear her down to build her up kind of thing, but I don't know. Rachel's so sensitive, you probably couldn't have done that anyway. So
yeah,
then
it
Phoebe
depends on personnel too. Because if it was
correct.
you, yeah, I would immediately probably throw a drink in your face. But
yeah, I would have thrown it back for ordering an iced tea in a coffee house. Phoebe walks in mad that her bank put an extra $500 in her account, and this is where this doesn't make sense to me because Rachel got the drinks wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand that they pass these drinks around. Like, she doesn't catch that either. But then as soon as Phoebe sits down, she gives her a cup of coffee, which is correct because I like looked into the scene. I'm like, well, maybe it was just like black coffee, so it's not really that big of a deal. But like you look in the background and she's like pouring cream into it, so she orders it a certain way, so it made no sense to me that she can't get these right, and then it's like all Phoebe's walking in not even ordering and I got it correct.
Spin zone, maybe she also didn't get it correct. Maybe it should have been black coffee, and Phoebe sits down and she's just too distracted or also being nice and just didn't say anything. But it's true, there is, she didn't order anything.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe Phoebe, because Phoebe was upset about the $500, which is such a weird thing to be upset about, but I would like to have that upsetness right now. Then Chandler's like, as they're talking to Phoebe about the bank episode, Chandler's like leaning behind, like not even like trying to walk away and do it somewhere. He's like sitting on the couch and leaning back over it. Here,
he puts his head like right here.
So if Chandler's sitting right here, he puts his head over here.
We have models.
We got it all set. And he, like, they're asking what he's doing, and he comes back over, and obviously he has to exhale, and he exhales a bunch of smoke. And then they, awful job trying to hide it. Like, I feel like, again, they're, like, supportive of him not smoking for health reasons, and he knows that. But, like, and maybe this is how hard he fell off the wagon. Like, you can't not smoke while you're sitting in front of them. You have to do it right then and there. But that's Chandler's character, I guess. And then while we're still in the coffee house, we find out that Monica has another date. She dated Paul, the wine guy, in the first episode. And third episode, she's already got... So, to your credit, what you're saying is we don't know how long. Like, has this been a week or has this been a couple months, whatever it is? But Monica's already, been upset about Paul and back on the dating train. Do you remember who she goes on a date with now?
Steve.
No, it's not. It's not. That's who they make fun of.
Making fun of her about. Who is it?
He walks in and does the same thing. He makes
says,
fun of him.
Steve, sexy, yeah.
It's Alan.
Or no, he says, nice to meet you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Chandler saying that Steve was sexy.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Alan.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because the softball, they're like, third base Alan, first base Alan, pitcher Alan.
Yeah. Yeah, so they Monica doesn't want the gang to meet him because they don't like any of her boyfriends, I guess. And then, yes, Steve is sexy. This is the Chandler remark. So then we flash to Monica's work, and she's getting advice from her co-worker. Now, that co-worker, and I didn't look it up until today when I was rewatching the episode, but that co-worker looked really familiar to me, and I was like, why does she look real familiar? She is an aunt on another sitcom. Do you know what sitcom it is? And she's like a guest like every once in a while. It's a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
She's a guest in Friends every once in a while?
No, this is her only appearance in Friends, which I kind of like her character, so I don't know why they didn't bring her back, because I thought she gave good advice to Monica, that she could have been one of those secondary characters. But she's Aunt Helen in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She's one of Will's aunt's sisters.
Oh, she is. Yeah.
So I like that voice is so distinctive, and I was like, man, why do I know that voice? So I looked it up today, and then I was like, oh yeah, obviously. So how do you like her character? Do you feel like they should have brought her back, or how do you like her character?
Yeah, I do, and it's kind of like pointing to your previous question earlier. Of she is one that's not going to sugarcoat it. She's going to tell you exactly how it is. She's going to give you the advice, and it doesn't matter if you don't like it. So I do, because I think that's a good presence to have, especially at key times.
Correct. Yeah. So, and then she has one of the best puns, I think, in Friends, like all 10 seasons. And she's talking about dating, and she says, as someone who's seen or been around her fair share of bad beef, which I think is like really funny because it's such a good pun.
As she's cooking.
Like, I think that's such a good pun. But she gives the advice. So an amazing pun, good advice saying, like, your friends will never like your boyfriends if your friends never meet your boyfriends. So, like, you're complaining that you want them to like the guy, and you're not giving them a chance to like the guy, kind of thing. So, yeah, what your point is, like, kind of just straight up telling her, like, you're wrong. If you want them to like him, then they got to meet him. So
1 + 1 = 2.
Correct. The gang, we go back to Monica and Rachel's apartment. The gang promises to be on their best behavior when meeting Alan. Phoebe walks in mad again because she went to the bank and they gave her another $500 and a football phone. And then Rachel asked the $1 million question at that point: what bank is this?
What bank is this?
Because everybody wants a bank like that. Every time they mess up, they're just paying you. Yeah, I'm all about that. So, Alan walks in, and there's just, and again, this is episode 3, so you don't know where it's going to go after this. But the crew is all kind of like mean mugging him when he walks in. And I get they're playing the story of, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But what are your feelings on that? Like, everybody just kind of like staring him down and mean mugging him and trying to intimidate him as he's walking in. What's your take?
I don't even feel like it's intimidation as much as they're just, and because of the track record, they kind of already have their minds made up. It's just like we already have formed an opinion about you because of Monica's track record, and it's not good. Yeah. So I think it has to be a little bit exaggerated than what would actually happen, because you only get 5 seconds to get the point across.
Right.
And so I think that a little bit of exaggeration, but then it's just an expectation almost.
Correct. I guess it doesn't make sense to me. Now, it would make sense if I was watching this for the first time and seeing episode 3 as episode 3. but since we've watched all 200 plus episodes or whatever, and they are a very accepting group of like people. Like it doesn't make any sense that they would do that. But you're correct. Like they're setting up Monica dates goofballs or jerks.
Right. Yeah,
and that's who they assume that he's going to be. So they're intimidating, mean mug, whatever you want to call it, whatever I want to call it. But then it does set up his possibility of telling a joke for them to like crack at that point, because he makes fun of Steve, which they make fun of Steve, and it kind of works out for it. So so it gets them all to laugh, and then it doesn't show really anything. It just Alan leaves after that, and then the gang all really likes him, and she walks over and they're all sitting down in the living room, and she's like, all right, who's first? And they're trying to think of stuff to not like about him, and then they all say that not only do they all say they like him, they all go above and beyond how they like really like him. Like Rachel says this could be the one. Like everybody's saying like this is the measurement of all your other boyfriends. And then they say like the best part about him is how he makes you feel about yourself. Which is so stupid. But it is really funny that it shows like Monica being worried about like, will they like him? They surpassed what she actually feels about him in, however long
in
that
one
dinner
date
was. Yeah.
And
like
quote unquote date.
Correct. A 2 or 3 hour dinner date with your friends. So,
yeah.
The coffee house happens, and this, if I was guessing, it was after a commercial break because it like breaks a little bit. But this whole scene to me is kind of like, it's not messed up. It doesn't really fit some of the characters. So the whole scene, and I want your opinions on all of these because this is kind of what I see. So they come in looking all sad, pulling the Joey like, I didn't get the job. I did get the job. Like, how did the softball game go? Well, we didn't do well. We won, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Monica says, like, how is that possible? And then Ross does what you're saying with like the first base Allen, second base Allen, third base Allen kind of thing. So I got a couple questions for you, and I kind of want your response on this. Like, one, so we don't know how long this is, but you cannot assume this is very long at all. So Allen's already playing on their softball team. Right. Why was Monica not at the game when all the rest of her friends are playing slow pitch softball? That makes no sense to me.
But it's not even just the rest of her friends and her boyfriend playing slow pitch softball. Like, yeah, she should have been there. Like and I'm just like trying to fill explanations. Like the only thing I can think of is that like she had just gotten off work.
But that's the only thing I can think of too.
But it still doesn't make a ton of sense because like a softball game is going to be at like 1.
Yeah,
and she works at a restaurant that's like dinner only.
Yeah,
like
I agree. It's sunny outside, so it's definitely
exactly
at best late afternoon.
Yes,
like at best. So yeah. I don't understand why she wasn't there. Something else that doesn't make sense to me is and again, this is episode 3, but as we learn throughout the whole series how like Ross and Monica are probably the 2 most competitive people of the 4, even though they're not. Well, Monica is probably one of the most athletic, but Ross necessarily isn't. But if Ross is so competitive, why does he have the pom-pom? Like, why is he not coming in with a glove or anything? That doesn't make any sense to me either.
That's valid. I'm not even sure I caught that. It was just like sports equipment, and that was like the thing, and it was just all blurred in together. Of they're walking in carrying sports equipment. I don't even think I paid one bit of attention that he's the one carrying the pom-pom. He's
got the pom-pom. Chandler's got a glove, and then Joey's got his like shoes tied over his shoulder. Nobody has a bat. Nobody has a bat. Nobody has a ball. Like, they might not even play the game. I don't.
Maybe they were still on a pretty tight budget at this point. Like,
yeah, because you're probably right. Because like Something else I've noticed is like every other scene has product placement. Like they're definitely getting paid in different ways with this because this scene actually was. What's the? Is it Irish Springs water? Is that the green bottle, the green label? Is that correct?
Perrier is the only thing I can think of with green. It could be.
I don't remember. I'm gonna look this up.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I'm gonna Irish Spring water. I'm gonna. Oh no, it's probably not. What am I thinking of then? It's something spring. Poland Spring.
Poland Spring.
Yeah, I think.
Yep.
I think that's the water bottle that they get. I don't know why I said Irish. Probably because it was green. That's the only thing I can think of. So I'm going to do this just so you can see that I'm not crazy. Right there. So that's the water that Rachel's laying down in the coffee house.
Yeah.
And good for them, being like in 1994, giving out bottles of water instead of just tap water, which you assume that they were doing in 1994. But whatever. So, yeah, why Monica wasn't there, unless like they're trying to start to plant the seed of she's not as crazy about him as the rest of the people are, but still, it
could be.
It doesn't make. It really doesn't make sense.
That's a pretty aggressive one.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I'm not going to go to your game, even though all of my friends were there. That's how much
that you just met. That you just met.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then on the street, Phoebe gives Lizzie soup. Do you remember what kind of soup?
Is it like alphabet because she takes out letters?
Yeah, it's alphabet soup. It's either with the vowels or without the vowels. I can't remember which way it is, but it's either I took out all the vowels or I left only the vowels. I can't remember which way that was.
I think it's took out because she then says something like, except for Y.
Yeah.
Sometimes Y.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. So how do you feel about, like, and this is starting to show Phoebe a little bit, like, how do you feel about her, like, not necessarily her generosity, because she is a generous person, but, like, giving away $1,000 is just, and we just saw inflation. That's $2,000 now.
And that's $1,000 then. That's $2,000 now.
So how do you feel like they're starting to, mold Phoebe into who she is? Like somebody that's like obviously, I don't know, what's her job at that point? Is she a masseuse at that point, or it might not even say what she is at that point? I don't think they.
Yeah, I don't think they.
But I don't think they like portray her to be like rich and like giving away $1,000. So how do you feel like they're starting to portray her character here?
I think it's still kind of in the beginning. They have to be a little bit aggressive with it to set a tone, and because like they have to put into that hippy dippy, they have to put into the extreme fairness, I guess, that aspect. Because there's other times in the series where it's she's like, I don't want to do this because that wouldn't be fair to this, and they're inanimate objects that she's talking about, and so it's like it's still a little bit setting the tone. But I also think it's kind of portraying a little bit of her craziness because it's the generosity and the hippy dippy, but she's also out there in a lot of ways. Yeah, you're right. And again, you're right. It's probably setting the tone because I feel like the first 2 episodes she probably was the least explored as a character. Mm-hmm. That this episode really didn't dig into it because it's not like she was the main character, but it feels like she was a little bit more of a main character, whereas everybody else is like Alan's story, either it's Monica or the other 4 friends, where it's Phoebe's kind of got her own thing going on, so it is kind of giving a nod to that. This is the first time where she has scenes that are like quote by herself.
Correct.
Or with somebody that's only going to be in there 1 or 2 episodes.
Correct. So it's a good point. So And then it goes to Chandler's office just briefly. There's no dialogue at all in this scene. It's just a quick scene, and it's of him smoking in his office, which I guess you can kind of see how addicted he is to cigarettes at this point, because he's trying to work, and he'll like take a puff, and he'll be able to type in like 3 numbers, and then he'll have to go back to it, and then he ends up messing up. And he sprayed. Now, what was he? Okay, do you remember what he was doing? I don't remember how the order went. Do you remember how the order went?
Oh, it's like puff. It was he would puff, and then he'd grab his little fan and air freshener.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he would spray the
mouth freshener, whatever.
Breath freshener.
Yeah. So then it shows it like once or 2 or 3 times, and then the last time he obviously messes up and sprays air freshener into his mouth, which has got to be terrible. Like
terrible.
Sometimes you smell that stuff, and it's like you get a little taste of it from smelling it. To spray that directly in your mouth, like you would have to throw up, I would think. So, so then it goes back to the street with Lizzie and Phoebe. Lizzie buys Phoebe a soda, which obviously has the thumb in it. And as she cracks it open and looks in there, it very quickly shifts to the coffee house, and they're talking about the thumb. And then Chandler starts to smoke again as the thumb conversation's going on. And again, I have a note that like it's amazing that you could smoke indoors. But then again, like I remember when we were kids that smoking, like you go to a restaurant and what would the hostess ask you?
Smoking or non-smoking?
Smoking or non-smoking.
Well,
so
what section of the restaurant do you want to sit in?
Do you want to sit where there's a cloud of smoke, or are you just trying to enjoy some fresh air?
That's right.
So I guess it hasn't been terribly that long. I mean, I guess we're 30s now, but it hasn't been that terribly long ago that you could smoke indoor. And then Rachel makes the comment that smoking, do you remember what she says? Smoking is worse.
Smoking is worse
than
the thumb?
Yeah.
Did you say the thumb?
Yeah, she's like, it's worse than the thumb. So then they all like start attacking him about it. And then Chandler either very defensively or very smartly or both starts to point out other people's flaws. So he starts with Joey's knuckle cracking. Mm-hmm. And then he talks about Ross's overpronunciation on words. And then he talks about Monica's snort when she laughs. And those are the only 3 he points out. But then like they kind of quiet down because they're like, okay, maybe we should off his back. And then Joey's like, well, does it bother everybody, or is it bad? I forget how he says it, but is it bad, or is it like, yeah, Phoebe chewing her hair, which then Phoebe gets thrown into it. And then Ross like sticks up for her, like saying it's endearing. So then Joey makes fun of you do you or something like that. And then Rachel says something, I forget. But then Phoebe sticks back. Rachel had to have said something about Ross because Phoebe then sticks up for Ross because Rachel says, well, I better get back to work because she's like in the middle of it. And then Phoebe's like, yeah, or somebody might actually get what they ordered. Which I think is the biggest
line.
Yeah, it's the biggest burn in there. But I'm like, as I'm like looking at this stuff, and again, we're looking at it as the totality of the series, which we will throughout this whole podcast. But Joey's knuckle cracking is never mentioned again that I know of.
No,
Monica never
nor do
snorts
I ever
when
notice it again.
Yeah, Monica never snorts again that I know of with laughing. Phoebe could chew her hair somewhere along the line. I'll have to pay attention, but I don't really remember it. Rachel obviously gets better but Ross's overpronunciation is the only one in this conversation that is consistent because he does that throughout like the whole series by far. So it's and then Chandler has a battle or two with smoking throughout the series. But I thought it was funny of everything that they pointed out. Ross's overpronunciation is the only one that ended up sticking throughout the 10 seasons. So if
at
you
least
were like,
10,
if you,
I think Rachel's is one that comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, at least maybe not from so much from an actual order standpoint, but back to the Gunther training and retraining.
Yeah. If you were sitting there, I don't want you to point out my flaw because it will only hurt my feelings. But if you were like, if you were sitting there, I was trying to think like if I was sitting there with the 6 of them, what flaw that he pointed out. Smoking would bother me the most because I just like it makes me sick to smell cigarette smoke. So I'm throwing that out. Of the other 5, which one do you think would get on your nerves the most?
Ross.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems like degrading towards you, like you're not doing things well enough for him.
Yep. And I mean, like, even with the wrong drink, like, unless it's something off the walls banana, I like sweet tea, I like coffee, like black coffee, I like lattes. Like, you could just give me a drink and all right, fine, whatever. That was annoying.
And how hard is it to switch?
But, yeah.
I mean, it takes them 3 seconds to switch it around. Phoebe
and
biting on her hair wouldn't bother me.
Time.
Do what?
Is that
would be the least amount for me. I don't like people pop their knuckles around me all the time. I never even really notice it. I mean, I guess I do if I'm saying it, if it is around me all the time. But I'm sure it happens more than I notice. Yeah. And from what I do notice, it never really gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
So Monica, after all the flaws, we go back to Monica's work, and she's talking about how she doesn't like Alan much, and the coworkers. Again, to your point, just. This is what you do. If you don't like the guy, then dump him. Like, it's not your friend's relationship; it's your relationship. So, if you don't like him, dump him. And again, that's a very, very quick scene, and it goes back to the coffee house. Now, what Chandler says next is one of my favorite Chandler lines throughout. So, like, I think this episode, I don't know how in totality how much I like the episode. I think it's one of my more definitely early, but I think like the pun of the bad beef is really funny to me. And then Chandler here, Joey and Ross are like grilling him, like, why are you doing this? You know better, blah blah blah. And Chandler's like, pretty much like, when push comes to shove, smoking is cool, and you know it. Which is like so funny because when you're kids, like that's like the don't smoke because it's not cool. Like that was like one of the I'm trying to think. Dare. That's what it was.
Dare.
Yeah. Dare was like it's not cool. Blah blah blah. So the fact that Chandler's like smoking's cool and you know it is really funny to me. Because it's like Ross and Joey followed the Dare program because you signed it. Everybody signed it. Everybody signed the pledge.
Everybody signed it.
And Chandler went against it because he's cool. That is one of the funniest Chandler lines to me because it's so creative. But then Rachel's on the phone with Alan, and she gives Chandler the phone, and Alan talks Chandler out of smoking. So he does quit smoking until the end of the episode when Monica says that they broke up. Now, do we feel, based on how much the crew likes Alan, because this is the only episode with Alan, because obviously Monica breaks up with him, but do you feel like based on how much they liked him, that he should have had a couple more recurring roles?
No.
I don't either, but what's your reasoning for that?
Just because it was a comic vehicle. That's basically it. And he didn't have much. It was basically showing the track record of Monica with in regards to her friends' opinions, and then it was immediately switched But yeah, I think it was just a funny vehicle, and he shouldn't have been in it longer.
Yeah, that's a good point. The reason I thought, because I don't think they should have brought him back either, but I went on a little bit different view on it. I don't think they brought him, like, should have brought him back because the five friends hold him in such high regard. Like, they love Alan.
But
They could have a gallon of Alan. They could have a gallon of Alan. So they hold him in such high regard. And I think if you bring him back, you open up the opportunity for him to have flaws. And they didn't want to do that because they wanted him to be like this near perfect person.
I thought you were going to say they opened up the opportunity to bring a seventh friend on. I was going to disagree with you on that one. The other reason is I also think that it's too early in the series and season for anyone to have a serious relationship where there's a recurring.
Yeah, realistically, the only recurring characters we've met so far, I believe, are Ross and Monica's parents. Correct? We haven't met anybody else.
Wait, they were only in the one episode, right?
Yeah, I'm saying like a recurring episode throughout the series. Those are the only ones that we've met so far. And Carol, correct?
Right. Well, I guess Susan and Carol. Yeah.
Now, one of my favorite recurring episode or character, if not my favorite, not either one of my favorites or my favorite recurring character is coming up within the next 2 or 3 episodes. You know who that is?
No.
Janice. I love Janice. I think she is such a good character.
Oh man.
And she loved Chandler.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
I agree. But she plays that character so well.
She does play the character really well.
Her entrance, because some of her entrances are so out of left field, like you wouldn't expect them, but you always hear her before you see her, and I think that's what makes her character so funny to me. So obviously Alan did not become a recurring episode. I think both you and I have some good points on that, but it like when push comes to shove, like never meet your heroes kind of thing.
Because that's a fair point. It's a fair point. To them, he's completely flawless. And nobody is that.
That's where you got to leave it. So we're back in Monica and Rachel's apartment. Chandler is not smoking, and he's like crashing. So he's like just mad and sarcastic. Chandler is back, giving him nicotine patches and everything. And then Phoebe walks in and says that she got $7,000 for whatever she had, or the thumb. And then Monica comes in and says we have to talk. She goes and gets Joey, because Joey was over in his apartment. So she gets all 5 of them together. And then as she sits down, she's like, we need to have a talk. That's what she says. We need to have a talk. And then Phoebe says, I just had a case of deja vu. No, I didn't. And then Monica's like, okay, we need to have a talk. And Phoebe's like, there it is.
There's it.
So again, that's really funny to me too. So I thought there was a lot of good one-liners in this episode, which, to what you're saying, and it makes sense, there really wasn't time for that because they had to just get all these backstories set up in these first ones, but they're starting to be able to have a little fun with the characters. So I really like these one-liners that they start to put together. And then she breaks up with Alan, or she tells the crew, the gang, that she's broken up with Alan. And then, like, they're really hurt. Like, they broke up, or he broke up with them almost. So it was like, they're one-liners of, like, people didn't change, I didn't change, we'll be fine, we just need time. Like, it's all, like, break up talk.
Yes.
Like, they had a dinner with them.
Too. Yeah.
They had a dinner with them, they played softball with them, and then Rachel and Chandler talked on the phone with them. This dude, like, really took this crew by storm.
It's been a grand total of a week maximum.
Yeah, right. Like, it's like, like the naive girl falling in love with the freshman naive girl falling in love with the senior within a week, like "Daddy, I love him" kind of thing. That's what they are doing throughout this episode with Alan. So then,
was it like 6 months or 1 week in mourning for every 6 months you're together? Well, that's like the standard rule. And so they like this conversation that they have should have been all the morning.
Right, correct, and it's not. So then Monica breaks up with Alan. I think she said she was going to break up with Alan, if I remember correctly, or I forget how she worded it exactly. But then Alan says that it's kind of like a relief. Do you remember why he said?
He hates her friends.
Yeah, I can't stand your friends. About that. Which again is another good one-liner. Like don't get me wrong, I like you. I just can't stand your friends. Yeah. So, and then back to the apartment. Monica's telling like, okay, it's over. Like I officially broke up with him, and they're asking like, well, did he say something about us? And she's like, see, I thought they missed
really
this because,
miss
she could have said that he mentioned you, which is not a lie. She didn't have to spin it in a way of like what you're right. He says he's going to miss you guys. She could have just been like, yeah, he mentioned you guys, which is not a lie.
and that would have been enough. They would have been like,
correct. For them, like the infatuation is off, whatever. So then, and this is the ending scene here. Chandler gets all upset. He's like, I gotta smoke. I gotta have the smokes. I gotta smoke. And he starts to walk out. And Phoebe says, I'll give you $7,000 if you never smoke again. And he says, okay. Which we assume, I don't know if we can assume that he took it because that's not really who he is. Like, it's the funny sarcastic to say you're going to take it and not necessarily take it. But if he did take it, he owes her $7,000.
He owes her. Yeah. But you know, if he invested
a few times,
by the time that he like went back and smoked, he still would profit.
Yeah. if he was smart, and he
was smart, he is. Yeah, because we find out later he's got a pretty big bank account when it comes to the wedding.
Wedding option A. He has enough for wedding option A.
He's got it. He's got
enough.
With
Monica, it's got to be.
It's a lot more than $40,000.
Yeah, if you really think about that. Okay. Be mindful. Like, help me get through this. Chandler and Monica are sitting down to dinner with her parents, saying that they are ready to make a withdrawal from the Monica wedding fund. Yeah, whatever that was. And he says, well, they don't have it anymore because it's now the beach house, and you can't put a price on that. But that fund was enough to at least pay for some of a beach house.
I would assume a down payment, right?
Yeah, so let's say it's let's say it's a beach. I don't even know how much a beachfront in Florida would cost in 1994.
94.
But you would guess
that would be 2000-ish.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, so you would guess 400 or 500. I mean, it would be a lot.
It's I would guess somewhere between 300 and 500, depending on where it is, because they're not buying in Miami.
No, so a 10%. Well, they said a beachfront, but a 10%, no matter where it's at, is $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just minimum 10%. So if they put even more down, it's probably double of that. And Chandler's got all that saved up. Maybe that was from the $7,000. Maybe that was the start of Chandler's wealth.
That was it. He seeded it, and he just let it ride.
Yeah, so $7,000 is nothing to him, except for wedding option A. So,
but he does owe Phoebe back though.
Yeah, he does, 100%. I about said wedding recap. Episode recap. Start to push Phoebe's character a little bit more in front of us. I thought, again, this was a more relaxed episode where they weren't just trying to jam information. But it still moves everybody's characters along. It again shows Monica with her ever cycle of trying to find the one, which she does, and then not much from like Rachel, Ross, and Joey in this episode, but Chandler with his smoking, that's now something that we understand about him, and Phoebe obviously with all her background of who she was, starts to make a little more sense. So I thought it was a good episode. It of the first three, it's definitely my favorite for sure.
Completely agree with that.
So let's before we get into Giffle, let's do our episode rating. I'll write mine down, but you can go first.
Give it a 6.2.
So 62. Remember, we're on a scale of 1 to 100.
Right. 6.2 is real bad on a scale of 1.
Yeah, that was all. So you hated this episode. So 62. You want to explain your reasoning?
Yeah, I thought that they were finally branching out into the comedic stuff like you're talking about. There was a little bit of reprieve from just, I guess what I would call administrative, to where they're just introducing in background and stuff like that. So they're starting to get into, I guess, more of a flow from a character and a writing standpoint. And I mean, I think the show is above average in general. So like an average episode is going to be, into the 6s. Yeah. So I think it's, from a series standpoint, it's pretty average. From this early, it's definitely the best one.
So I went a little higher than you. I went 80. Is what I
wow.
We've been pretty. The first two we've been pretty close. We went 80. There's several reasons I went. One, I told you there's a lot of one-liners that I do like in this one.
Yep.
Chandler's character, who is my favorite character, finally starts to have some sincerity in his lines instead of just sarcastic lines. And then, again, it's starting to show. Again, they're still early as actors, but I thought when I watched this, for whatever reason, it struck to me like they were more of themselves than they were in the first two episodes, and that could have been just because I appreciated the one-liners. So, and again, what they do so well writing-wise, they still continue. No, mind-blowing writing, story plots happen or series plots happen in this, but it did show some things like his smoking, and Ross's pronunciation is in there, and Phoebe's generosity. So I really enjoyed this episode, and maybe I'm guilty because I wasn't, not that I wasn't crazy about the first two episodes, but I would never, like, somebody asked me what's your top 10 episodes, I would never put one of the first two episodes in there. So this is more so that it wouldn't be in my top 10, but it's starting to push to where I like it. So maybe I'm too much with it, but yeah, I gave it an 80. So
all right,
it's going to be a little different. So I'm going to go. Okay, good. I can do Giffle on the internet because I have no idea where my. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen. Don't be looking. So our audience can see me live play this. Here, actually, you go ahead.
You got the top half of the GIF. Can you scroll up at all? Like it's cutting off the top half, or maybe it's just.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't. No, I can't. It's just the way it is, based off of.
Okay.
Nope,
well, when I changed the direction of it, I put it side by side. I can see the whole thing. So maybe it was just the resizing for mine.
Why don't you go ahead and go first, and then you can start to watch where I'm at, because I'm trying to. I know exactly what episode this is.
Yeah, I think this is easy. Oh no! Hold on.
Uh-oh. You look confused.
Yeah, because it's the one where. Well, should I say it?
No, okay, so it's going to be season 5, episode 15 is what it's going to be. It's going to be the one where the girl hits Joey. That's the one. Boom. Because this is the very beginning. You got to think the one where everyone finds out. Ross finds out at the very end. So he's starting to yell through the apartment.
Like, remember? But so my confusion is the one. It says the one where Ross finds out is season 2. That's why I looked confused.
The one where Ross finds out is Rachel, where he finds out Rachel likes him.
Oh, okay. Damn it. See, that's it's the names that give me, because it's obviously the one after Ross finds out about Monica and Chandler. So that's what I was searching first.
Yeah, so you talk about, and we've talked about having our, I can stop sharing this. We talked about having our favorite episodes. The one where everyone finds out is one of my favorite episodes. Like, they don't know that we know that they know we know. Like,
that was another one of these shirt options.
Really? That would be good. So, obviously, Rachel and Joey already know. Joey knows for a long time. Rachel knows at the very beginning of that episode. And then as Ross is looking at the apartment to get himself back up because he got put on sabbatical because of his rage. So then...
On account of my rage.
Correct. And then he's like getting the new apartment, Ugly Naked Guy's apartment.
Yep.
And he invites, I forget what his boss's name is, at the museum, but he's there.
Either.
And he's yelling out, like, the boss has no idea what he's yelling at, but he's yelling out the window, like, get off of my sister. And then that's the end of that episode. So I knew it was, like, this was the very beginning of that next episode. I had no idea it was the same one as him getting hit, but I knew that. So,
is that one called the one where everyone finds out?
Yeah, the one where everyone finds out.
See, I searched the one where Ross finds out, and that's when season 2 comes up. But that makes sense. But that's why my face went so confused, because I was like, it's not season 2. I thought they were wrong for a second, and I just had too much confidence in myself.
Too much confidence. So, what did you end up getting? Did you get it on the first try?
You had said it right. You had said the season when I was confused still.
Oh, okay.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah. So I knew which one it was. I just had to. I would have searched and found the to find the right name.
Correct. Now, in your defense, the only reason I knew exactly what that was called is because that is one of my favorite episodes. So I know the one where everyone finds out is one of my favorite episodes. So So 62 and an 80. Giffle, I'm cruising on you right now.
You are.
I've outplayed you.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't say that you should be embarrassed.
I don't know the names. Damn it.
I don't know if you should be embarrassed, but you should be embarrassed.
Yeah, that's fine. I knew that was coming.
So there we go. Episode 3. The one with the thumb. A good episode. Great episode. The next one is the one with George Stephanopoulos, or like they say a couple words. They say a couple words in that next episode that's really going to test me next episode as I'm doing the narrative of it. But we'll definitely get to that as we
Can't
go.
Wait.
So, but we appreciate everybody stopping by. Obviously, another great recap from Cal, and that's not a moot point. That's
not
sincere.
A moot point.
Appreciate you stopping by, everybody.